I am so upset, and I'm so upset to the point that I'm filming a fucking YouTube video about it, which I never do. I know, I'm never posting. I've completely disintegrated into the wind, but I don't even post story times. This is the first story time I think I'm ever making, but this is how fucking, first of all, ridiculous of a story this is, and also objectively funny. I'm not finding it funny right now, but you are allowed to laugh at it because I wouldn't be posting this if I didn't think it had some fucking entertainment value. Because this is honestly, like my life is a sitcom. I feel like I've been Truman Showed for the past like 3 weeks of my life. So I am just going to say at the top of this video, I do not blame any individual medical professional for the blunders, the buffoonery, the fucking cuckoo bananas chaos that I have gone through. I fully blame the government for not funding the NHS sufficiently, for making it so that all of the doctors and all of the nurses are so overworked and underpaid that they just simply do not have the time, the resources, or the mental capacity to do their jobs to the best of their ability. I also just at the same time kind of believe they just be letting fucking anyone through medical school, and the general IQ of doctors is significantly lower than I think we all fucking give them credit for, but yeah, that's not really my problem, and we're not really here to discuss this. This isn't really a dissection of the NHS and the problems with the NHS. Thank God for the NHS, because thank God throughout all of this, I paid zero money for any of the medical care that I got, and I think I'm incredibly privileged and lucky to live in a place with universal healthcare, and I think everyone should have free access to healthcare. But currently the state of the free healthcare in the UK is that the government will just give it as little fucking money as possible and then expect it to work, and it doesn't. Spoiler alert, it's not gonna work, and we're gonna see how it didn't fucking work here. Well, it eventually worked, because Theo's fine now, everything's fine now, and I'm honestly so pissed off that it's fine now, because I would rather, we're getting ahead of ourselves, I'm just giving the disclaimer at the start of this that I'm not one of those people who are like, it's the NHS is bad and we need private healthcare. No, that's not. I think the NHS is great and it just needs more money so that stupid shit like this doesn't happen. Because for however underfunded it is, unfortunately, so much time and resources was wasted on me that did not need to happen. And again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We don't even know what's happening. Also, other disclaimer, neckbeard, I was doing an experiment because, spoiler alert, I have been at home doing nothing but going to hospital for weeks. So I was like, well, might as well see what happens with the neck beard if we just leave it untamed, because usually I shave it down, but I was like, let's just see what happens. So I acknowledge that it's gross and it's weird and I look like a Redditor, but oh well, that's kind of the vibe I'm going for, because I've just been losing my mind and going crazy. I feel so crazy. I can't even express to you how gaslit I have felt for these weeks, but we're getting ahead of ourselves, Theo, getting ahead of ourselves. What has actually happened? So, well, okay, so the problem for like a couple of months was, TMI, trigger warning, content warning for this video, we are talking about medical stuff, talking about stuff going wrong with the piss, with the uterus, with all of that, so I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna talk about it because I don't fucking care. I don't give a shit if the internet hears about my piss problems or my ovary problems, but if you're like, that's gross, I don't want to hear about it, this is not the video to watch. But yeah, so for a hot second, for like a couple of months, it was like hard to piss. Not like painful to piss, but it would just be, I would go to the toilet and then like 5 minutes later, I would be going back to the toilet because I didn't piss out all the piss. And like, it was just weird. I was like, what's going on? Why am I struggling to get out all my piss in one stream? Which is a crazy problem to have. And when I was Googling about this, the internet had nothing for me. And I was like, okay, this is just a new weird thing about my body. And I just gotta accepted it. But then, at the start of this month, I started feeling a lot of pain in my bladder and like kind of where my like kidney is on the right side. And there was a moment where I did think, because like, I think anyone who has a uterus understands your bladder and your uterus are very close, so sometimes cramps feel like they're in your bladder, sometimes bladder pain feels like cramps, but I was like, I'm pretty sure this isn't cramps, I'm pretty sure this is bladder pain, because while I am on testosterone, I do still get cramps every month. I don't bleed, but I do still like have a period in the sense that I get a little crazy and I get cramps, and that's kind of the extent of my periods now. So I didn't think it was cramps. I was like, this hurts in my bladder, I'm struggling to piss. Probably a UTI. I've had one UTI before in my life when I was like 14, and all that happened was I pissed in a cup and they were like, here are some antibiotics, and I was like, great. So I start getting this bladder pain at the start of this month, and I'm like, okay, UTI, whoops, that sucks, but I'll just go get some antibiotics and then I'll be on my way, and this pain will be gone and everything will be fine. Now, Keep in mind, there's also some pain in my kidney, but I did Google it, and the internet said kidney pain can also happen with the UTI. So I was like, alright, well, I guess that is related to this UTI. And so at the point that I realized, oh, this pain is getting bad, it's probably a UTI, it was kind of late in the day, so I couldn't get an appointment with my GP, which is like your normal doctor for Americans watching. So I was like, I'll just go to a walk-in center. I'd rather just go somewhere, sit in a waiting room for a minute so that I can be sure I get antibiotics today to like lock this problem down, get it done. So I go to a walk-in center, and I walk into this walk-in center and I'm like, hi, I have a water infection. And they're like, great, piss in this cup and then wait to see a doctor. And I was like, amazing. So I piss in this cup and I sit in the waiting room with this cup. And I will say the one silver lining of all of this is that in the cumulative hours I have spent in waiting rooms and in hospitals these past few weeks, I have read 6 whole books. I did read 6 entire books just on my phone, on my Kindle, which usually I do read like on average 6 to 9 books a month, but like 6 books in just dedicated like waiting room time, it did pass the time. So we will be doing a little reading wrap up at the end of this to talk about what I read in all of this time spent waiting. So I'm in this walk-in center waiting to see a doctor. Finally, like 2 hours go up. They're like, hi, Theodore Scott, come see us. Speak to this doctor. I give her my piss. And I'm like, hi, I have a UTI. I need antibiotics. I say those words. I say those exact words. That's the first thing I say. Keep that in mind. I'm like, hi, I have a UTI. Here's my piss. And she goes, okay, great. Oh, it takes the piss, does the little like strip pH test that they do with your piss. And she goes, well, your white blood cell count's fine. And I don't see any signs of infection, so you don't have a UTI. And I was like, that's interesting because I definitely do. And she's like, well, there's a stone in here. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And apparently I did not feel this stone pass, did not see it in the cup of piss that I was holding for hours at this point. She was like, yeah, look, there's a stone in here. And she made me take a picture of the stone. I will not be including a picture of the stone because I don't think it's already I'm talking way too much about my piss on the internet. I'm not going to show you a picture of my piss in a cup. But there was a stone in there. And she was like, yeah, if you're having this much pain, this broke off from a bigger stone and you need to go to your GP to get this kidney stone sorted. I'm like, fuck, I have a kidney stone. It's not a UTI. You can't take antibiotics for a kidney stone. And I do know kidney stones kind of run in my family. So I'm like, fuck, it's my turn to have a kidney stone. Oh boy, this pain's about to skyrocket. So she tells me, she was like, okay, here's another cup to piss in this other cup, take it to your GP tomorrow and get an appointment with your GP. And I'm like, great. Another appointment. I have to see another medical professional. Little do I know, this is the start of so many appointments with so many medical professionals, but I'm already so annoyed that I have to go to my GP once. So I piss in this other cup. Also, keep a tally of how many cups I'm pissing in because it's gonna be a crazy amount. And at the end of this, you're gonna be like, wow, this was a lot of cups pissed in. And I'm like, I know, I understand. So I piss in this other cup, I take it to my GP the next day, and I get an appointment, and I'm like, hi, here's my piss. I thought I had a UTI, but then I went to a walk-in center yesterday, and a stone came out. And she was like, oh no. And she was like, did it hurt when you passed the stone? And I was like, weirdly enough, no. I didn't notice it coming out. I would not have noticed it until another woman pointed out to me that there was a stone in this cup of piss. And she was like, okay, you need to go to A&E right now. And I was like, what? And she printed out like my medical records or whatever to give to A&E. And she was like, take this to them. You need to go to A&E. And I was like, fuck. So for the Americans, A&E is the emergency room, accident and emergency. That's what A&E is. We're going to be in A&E a lot. So just thought I'd clarify. So now I'm like, great. I have to go to A&E right away. I go home and I eat lunch first. And then I go to A&E. And I'm waiting in there forever. And so I walk into A&E and I'm like, hi, I have a kidney stone, apparently. And they're like, oh no. And at this point, the pain is getting worse. Like, by the hour, the pain is just getting worse. And I'm in so much pain, it hurts to move, it hurts to walk. I'm like, this is a crazy amount of pain to be in. I cannot express how much pain I was in. So, which is the only reason I went to A&E. I hate going to hospital, but the amount of times I've been to hospital, that should let you know how much pain I was in, because I never go to hospital. I will just raw dog anything wrong with my body to avoid going to hospital, but I'm like, I need this pain to go away. So I wait in A&E for hours, and then finally I'm seen by a doctor, and I'm like, I am in so much pain. I think I have a kidney stone. A tiny stone came out yesterday in my piss, and the doctor before said it was probably part of a bigger stone. I just thought I had a UTI. And he was like, okay, piss in another cup. I piss in another cup. They take my blood. By the way, so many blood tests. I don't know if you can see how bruised both my arms are because they just had to start alternating the amount of times I've had my fucking blood taken. So I piss in another cup and I'm in so much pain. I need painkillers. And they're like, okay, here's a pill. Put it up your butt. And I go, I'm gonna what? And they're like, this goes up your butt, go to toilet, put this up your butt. And I was like, okay, I guess we're putting pills up my butt now. Alright, this better make the pain go away. Spoiler alert, it didn't, and this was pointless. So I put this pill up my butt, and they're like, alright, wait again so we can do a CT scan so we can see this kidney stone. And I'm like, great. So I'm sitting there feeling so, like, shamed. I don't know. Like, I kind of understand straight men a little bit more now after now having an object go up my butt for the first time. I'm like, yeah, it really changes you, and it was just a pill, and I hated it. I did not like it, and it made me shit my pants like crazy the next day, but we're not even talking about that because I didn't do anything. I'm waiting for a CT scan. I have this CT scan, and I'm like, finally, we're gonna see this kidney stone. They're gonna determine whether or not I can just pass it, or if I need it surgically removed. I'm in so much pain that I don't care. I'm just sat and I'm reading on my phone. I'm trying to make the time pass, and reading does make the time pass quite quickly, so I'm glad that I was reading just like the whole time to avoid thinking about how much pain I was in, and the fact that I hate being in hospital. So in total, on this day, I spent about 6 or 7 hours in A&E, and all that happened in there was I spoke to one doctor, put one pill up my butt, pissed in about 3 cups, because the nurses just kept asking me to keep pissing in cups. I had a blood test, I had a CT scan. Surely all of that could have been done in an hour, but I understand NHS is underfunded, the wait times are crazy because there's not enough doctors to see the amount of patients. I understand that, so I'm not one of those people who is like going and complaining to everyone about the wait time, being like, I need to be seen. It's like, I understand I'm being seen as fast as I possibly can be. There's just not enough resources for everyone to be seen in a timely manner. I understand that, and I was trying not to take my frustrations out on the staff. So finally, like 2 hours after I have a CT scan, a doctor finally comes in and talks to me about it, and it's a different one. And she goes, hi, I've just got the results back of your scan, and you don't have any kidney stones. And I was like, what? But a stone came out in my piss, and I'm finding it difficult to piss. How can this be that there are no stones in my kidneys? And she goes, well, there are no stones in your kidneys, but there is a 4 by 4 centimeter cyst on your right ovary. News to me! And so I was like, oh, okay, what's wrong with my piss then? And she goes, I don't know, but you need to go to the emergency gynecology unit. And I said, great. And then I asked her, I was like, if this is like really bad, will they just like give me a hysterectomy? And she was like, maybe. So then I'm like kind of getting my hopes up that I'm about to get a free hysterectomy off the NHS, which, spoiler alert, did not happen. At this point, it's like 9 p.m. So she's like, I've made an appointment for you tomorrow morning to go to the EGU, and you're going to have an ultrasound there. And I was like, great. First time at the gynecologist, and it's when I'm in egregious amounts of pain. The next day, I go to the EGU. And what I will say is my entire time in the EGU, I did not get any shit or any type of abuse from any member of staff for obviously being visibly transmasculine and not a woman and that was something I was concerned about. I wasn't really dysphoric about going to the gynecologist because I was like, honestly, kind of like fucky gender slay moment that I'm here in this women's clinic. I just felt like I was like, ooh, gender validated, I'm a freak here. So I didn't really care. But I will just say, if you are a trans person who is possibly nervous or unsure about going to the gynecologist for the first time, I had a fine experience with it. Well, not a fine experience in the sense that they didn't help me, but a fine experience in the fact that no one was like transphobic to my face. So that was nice. So the next day, I'm at the EGU, which is also in the hospital. So this is now my second time in hospital in 2 days. And I'm at the EGU, and I'm, again, waiting for hours. She said she made me an appointment at 9:30 for this ultrasound. I did not get the ultrasound until like 11 a.m. So I go in for my ultrasound, male gynecologist. Nightmare. I'm like, oh no. But then I'm actually kind of glad it was a male gynecologist. But anyways, so he's like, all right, we're going to do a transvaginal scan. And I was like, we're going to do a what? I'm like, we're gonna do a what? And he was like, yeah. And he shows me the probe. Huge. Like, I asked my friend who has had a transvaginal ultrasound before, and I was like, how big's the probe? And she was like, not that big. It was fucking huge. Like, that bitch lied to me. It was giant. I was like, there's no way this is happening. And I look at that probe, and he was like, and you're gonna insert it yourself. And I was like, no the fuck I'm not. I'm like, you're inserting it. This is your job. That's what you're paid to do. And he was like, are you sure you don't want to insert it yourself? And I'm like, bro, I've never used a tampon before in my life. And as soon as I said that, his face drops, and he goes, have you ever had penetrative sex? And I go, no, which, yes, I have, but not in the way he's assuming. Not as the penetrated, as the penetrator, but I didn't say that. But he was like, as soon as I said I'd never had penetrative sex, he goes, uh-oh. Like, he's like, this is gonna be uncomfortable then. And I'm like, isn't it? And I was like, listen, I'm in so much pain, I don't fucking care what we have to do. Shove that shit inside me. I need help. I need this pain to stop because I'm in so much pain, I'm losing my mind. And he was like, okay, time to go. So, he attempts to insert this probe in me, and in the wise words of Cardi B, pussy tight like a nun. It did not go in. It did not work. He made it probably like this much in, and then I scream, and I'm like, this is not happening. I was like, he was like, if it gets uncomfortable, tell me to stop. And I was like, I'm gonna power through. I've been tattooed so many times. I could not power through this. It was horrible. It was the worst pain it was worse than the pain I was already in. I was like, I could not power through. And he was like, okay, we'll just do a regular ultrasound. We won't do the transvaginal one. And I'm like, that was an option in the first place? I'm like, why did we attempt this if we could have just done a normal scan? So now I'm like, great, let's just fucking please someone do something about this cyst. So he does the jelly scan, the normal type of ultrasound, which I've had before, and he goes, yep, there's a 4-centimeter cyst on your right ovary, and I'm like, so what are we gonna do about that? So then I'm just sent back to a waiting room, and they give me a sandwich, and they give me some painkillers, and then a doctor speaks to me, and she's like, so, we only operate when cysts are above 5 centimeters, and yours is 4.3, and I'm like, so you're telling me I'm fucking 7 millimeters short of being able to have this shit cut out of me? So I'm like, okay, nothing's happening. And she's like, have some codeine, have some painkillers. I'm like, that's not doing anything. I'm in so much pain. Basically they just tell me, hey, cope, here's a week's worth of codeine, and if it gets worse, come back. And I'm like, great. So nothing's fucking happening. No one's doing anything to help me. I'm just being given some codeine, and I am told to fuck off. And spoiler alert, I take this codeine regularly for a week with paracetamol and ibuprofen. I'm taking paracetamol, ibuprofen, and codeine all for a week. None of it does anything. I'm still in excruciating pain, and after a week, the pain is just getting worse. And so I'm not going anywhere. I am not doing anything. I have not left my room. I beat honor mode on Baldur's Gate 3. That's how much fucking free time I had. Like, I usually go on walks every day. I'm doing none of that. I am just in too much pain to move, to function, to live. It is excruciating. And I'm so upset that no one is seemingly doing anything about it other than giving me painkillers that aren't working. Once my codeine runs out, the pain was getting worse when I was still taking the codeine, and it just continues to get worse even after the codeine runs out. So I'm like, I think I have to go back. So I call the EGU, and I'm like, hi, I was in there the other week for a cyst, and it's getting worse. I need help. And she goes, go to A&E. I'm like, well, the people at the EGU told me to call you back, and then I called you back, and I was just told to go to A&E. So I go to A&E, and I'm like, hi, I have an ovarian cyst. And the nurse who was seeing me was like, an ovarian cyst? And I was like, yes, an ovarian cyst. Read my file, it says female. So I get blood taken at A&E, and then finally another nurse speaks to me, and she goes, okay, go to the EGU. If only I had called the EGU in the first place to skip the step of going into A&E and having my blood taken again for no reason. At least I'm 1,000% sure I'm not HIV positive, because I know they test you for HIV every time you get blood taken at the hospital. So, I mean, that's good, and you get tested for HIV, take your prep, whatever, you know, and the stigma. But I'm now, like, livid, like, fucking stomping my way to the EGU, being like, I fucking called the EGU in the first place, and they told me to go to A&E, and then I show up to A&E, and they're like, go to the EGU! So I show up back up at the EGU, and I'm like, hi, I have a cyst, and it's getting worse, and I'm in so much pain, and they're like, uh-oh, it might have ruptured, and I'm like, I think it fucking did, because I'm in too much pain to move. Already the walk here was excruciating, and no one offered me a wheelchair, but it doesn't matter. So, I'm back in the EGU, and they're like, alright, time to do another ultrasound. And I'm like, great. And then he comes in and he goes, so we tried to do a transvaginal ultrasound last time. What went wrong? And I said, what went wrong? It wouldn't fucking go in because it's a no entry zone down there. And he was like, okay, we'll do another like over the belly ultrasound. And they do it, and he scans it, and he looks at it and goes, huh, it's smaller. And I was like, what? What do you mean it's smaller? The pain is getting worse. I'm in agonizing, excruciating pain. At this point, at the EGU, because I was waiting so long for this ultrasound, they had given me more codeine, liquid morphine. I had liquid fucking morphine that did nothing. Like, the nurse gave me the morphine, came back like 30 minutes later, and she was like, is your pain better? And I was like, no, it's not. In fact, I just have a headache now. By the way, morphine fucking bullshit didn't even get me a little high. I don't understand how anyone gets addicted to that shit. Like, didn't get high, didn't help the pain. It just felt like nothing but a headache medication to give me a headache. So I'm having this other scan, and he goes, yeah, this is a completely acute cyst. It's now 2 centimeters. I don't understand how you're in this much pain. And I'm like, me fucking neither. You gave me liquid morphine and it didn't do shit. So then he's like, well, there's nothing else we can do for you here. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean there's nothing else you can do for me here? He's like, well, it's not a gynecological problem and this is the EGU. And I'm like, I understand that this is the EGU and it's not a gynecological problem. So apparently the cyst was not ever causing me pain. Like, the cyst was just there, and, like, it just wasn't the cause of this pain at all. And then, finally, I don't know how many medical professionals I've spoken to at this point being like, the pain is here at the back on my side where my kidney is. And then, finally, this gynecologist pointed out to me, he was like, that's weird because your ovary is, like, here. This is where your ovary is. This is where I'm describing the pain. I don't know how they got these two organs confused, because I was saying the whole time the pain was back here, and they were like, well, you have a cyst on your ovary, and I'm like, well, how the fuck would it hurt back there? So finally, he's like, yeah, the systems are causing you pain. We can't do anything more for you here. Leave. And at this point, I had spent 11 hours in the EGU that day. That's how much waiting time there was between seeing people. So I just go home, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm just losing my mind. Because they did a full CT scan, my entire abdomen. Like, I'm sure if there had been anything wrong with any of my organs, that would have fucking picked it up. And now I know, oh, this cyst hasn't ruptured, it's getting smaller, but my pain is getting worse. How is my pain getting worse if the thing wrong with me is getting better? So at this point, I feel like I'm going crazy. And my top explanation is I'm having a complete psychological breakdown. There is no other explanation for this other than I am losing my goddamn mind. So I'm at this point, I'm ready to give up. I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is just the excruciating pain that I'm going to live with until I die. Like, I don't know what the fuck else could be wrong. So, but then the next day, obviously, the pain gets worse. And it gets so much worse that it's like 8 p.m. and I'm like, I don't think I can fall asleep. I'm in too much pain. Time to go back to A&E. I show up at A&E when the sun is fucking setting. We did not leave until the sun rose. We were waiting for 7 fucking hours to see a doctor this time at A&E, and I was losing my mind. I just wanted to go to bed. I was tired. I was hungry. I was in pain. At this point, I had run out of good books to read on my Kindle, so now I'm just reading kind of like shit ones that I had downloaded, and we'll talk about this at the reading wrap-up at the end. But, like, I'm losing my mind, and I'm so convinced. I'm like, I'm gonna speak to this doctor, and they're gonna find nothing wrong, and no one's gonna give me any painkillers, and this is all gonna be for fucking nothing, and I have just wasted my entire night in A&E. Finally, I'm seen. It's 3 in the morning, and the doctor, he's like, hi, what's wrong? I explained the whole thing. I'm like, I thought I had a UTI, then they thought it was a kidney stone, then apparently it was a cyst, but then the pain got worse, and the cyst was getting smaller, so now I don't know what the fuck's going on. I think I'm dying. And he was like, okay. And he was like, how bad's your pain? And I was like, well, it's 3 a.m. and I'm in A&E, so it's about a 10 out of 10. Like, if it was a 3 out of 10, I would not fucking be here waiting 7 hours to be seen. I would make an appointment at my GP. I'm losing my mind. And he's, like, examining me. They've taken so much blood from me. I can't even describe how many blood tests there have been throughout this whole thing. And he goes, yeah, I'm looking at your CT scan and nothing looks wrong. And I'm like, I know. I'm crazy. I must be going crazy. And he goes, yeah, the only thing I can think of that this could possibly be is if you have stones in your gallbladder, which also stores bile before it goes to the kidneys. And I'm like, oh, okay. So he goes, all right, I've made you an appointment. Tomorrow you're going to go have an ultrasound of your gallbladder. And I was like, great, time to go home. We left A&E and the sun was fucking rising. I'm losing my mind at this point. I'm at my fucking mental breaking point. I'm like, because I'm in the car on the way home going, it's not my gallbladder. it's not gonna be fucking stones in my gallbladder. They're gonna do this scan tomorrow and they're gonna find nothing. And so I went in the next day, back to hospital, having another ultrasound, and I go in for this ultrasound, and the technician, she does a full ultrasound, my entire abdomen. I have to like lay on my left side, then lay on my right side. Like, she scans everything. I can see her ticking off each organ on her thing. And then just at the end of the ultrasound, she asked me, who sent you for this? Like, confused. Like, I did not scan anything that indicated any problems. Why on earth were you sent to have this full ultrasound in the hospital? But she obviously doesn't say nothing's wrong, but she just goes, who sent you for this? I'm like, So we're waiting in another room in the hospital for a doctor to come talk to me about the results of this ultrasound. And they had also taken my blood again that day. They had taken my blood almost every day of the week at this point, because I keep going in being like, I'm in so much pain, someone do something. But at this point, I'm like, I guess I'm crazy. I guess I'm just losing my mind. And as soon as that technician went, who sent you for this? I was like, oh my god, there are no stones in my gallbladder. There's nothing wrong with any of my organs. Nothing's going wrong. I'm losing my mind. So finally this doctor comes back and she goes, yeah, results of your ultrasound completely normal, no gallbladder stones. And I'm like, yeah, I could have fucking told you that before we even did it. And so finally, my mom, thank God, was like, something has to be wrong. Can we get him to piss in another cup? And she's like, all right, we'll have him piss in another cup. This is like the 5th or 6th cup I've pissed in for doctors in the hospital. Like, I cannot express enough how many times they've asked me to piss in cups. I piss in this cup. It's barely it's like this much piss at the bottom of the cup, because at this point I'm so drained of piss. And obviously you have to empty your bladder before you have a fucking ultrasound. So I didn't really have any, like, so little piss, and I'm like, is this even enough piss to test? And she goes, yes, and she takes it away. Comes back and says, hey, so there's blood in your urine. Do you still have periods? And I go, no, I don't bleed. And she was like, well, then blood in your urine is probably a sign that you have a UTI! That you have a UTI! And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And she was like, so we can either send this away and get the full results in 3 days, or I can just give you antibiotics now and we'll see if it works. And I go, give me the fucking antibiotics now. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I've only taken antibiotics once before in my life for a previous UTI, so it's not like I'm abusing antibiotics. The amount of pure rage I have felt being on this antibiotics course and having the pain just alleviate and dissipate, I cannot express how fucking pissed off I am that the first thing I said to any medical professional over the past 3 weeks of going back to hospital, going to the gynecology unit, of going to the surgical unit to get this ultrasound, like I have been saying, and I had said to the first woman at the walk-in center, hi, I have a UTI, can you give me antibiotics? Every other doctor I spoke to since then, I started the story with, well, I thought I had a UTI and then all of this happened. And they even asked me, they were like, why did you think you had a UTI? And I was like, because I've had one before and this felt like the same pain but worse. I have to go to my grave, to my deathbed, knowing I went to hospital 6 times for a UTI. I was on codeine for a week for a UTI. I had liquid morphine prescribed to me for a UTI before they prescribed antibiotics. I put a pill up my butt. I shoved a pill up my butt for a UTI. I feel crazy. I cannot tell you how gaslit this has made me feel, and just how fucking fucked this has fucked my brain. The fact that I was right the whole fucking time, and I was right the first time, and had the first time I gone in there and they'd listened to me. And I guess this stone that I also had just kind of threw everything off. And then this cyst threw everything off. They found this stone that had nothing to fucking do with shit. They found this cyst that had nothing to fucking do with shit. It was just a UTI the whole time. A completely normal, regular thing that happens to people that you would think doctors would know how to fucking recognize. And I can't tell you how many cups of piss I gave to these people. And I'm like, what the fuck have you all been doing? Because she tested my piss. I watched her test my piss for the UTI UTI the first time, and she was like, well, your white blood cells count fine. And I'm like, well, clearly you didn't test for blood in the urine, because clearly there was. And they kept asking me, they were like, is there blood in your urine? And I'm like, I don't think so. No, I don't see any. Apparently there can be blood in your urine, even when you don't see it, even when it doesn't look red, there can be just blood in there. And it was a fucking UTI this whole time. I had a probe shoved up the puss for no reason. For no reason, because the cyst wasn't causing any pain. Like, I feel crazy. I feel so crazy, but also this is objectively so funny. Like, it's so funny the amount of medical appointments and hours I've spent in hospital for a UTI, which is, like, not at all an uncommon problem. And you would not, I was admitted into the EGU for 11 hours. I had liquid morphine for no reason. So it's like, I acknowledge that the NHS is underfunded, but also how much of that underfunding problem is exacerbated by the fact that when people don't know how to do their fucking jobs, they end up just wasting resources and money. Like, God knows how much fucking money was wasted on me when all I needed was 1 round of antibiotics. I did not need 5 blood tests. I did not need a CT scan. I did not need like 30 ultrasounds. I did not need a suppository up the butt. I did not need a week's worth of codeine. I did not need liquid morphine. I did not need any of that shit. I needed 1 round of antibiotics that I asked for 3 weeks ago. The first time I spoke to anyone about this problem. This has genuinely been the most stressful, awful 3 weeks of my life. I cannot expect. First of all, I don't know how I was in that much pain from a UTI. I think I am just kind of like a bitch. But like, so much pain, so much gaslighting, so much time just spent in hospital waiting around. Thank God I was reading on my phone to at least do something with the time. But like, oh my God. So I don't know what the point of making this video and telling this story is, other than just like, I'm hoping this is at least somewhat entertaining to you and that maybe I can monetize this, but I don't know. Reading roundup, what did I read in hospital for all of the cumulative tens of hours that I spent in waiting rooms? Let's talk about that. Let's end this on a semi-high note. Alright, the first book I read was Blessings by Chukwuebuka. I think is how you say the first name, eBay. And it was really good and I really liked it. It's like a coming-of-age novel about like young gay boys in Nigeria. Well, one specific gay boy, but then like the boys he meets. And I really liked it. I thought it was really good. It was obviously like very dark in some places, but I think it was very important and it was a very good read. The next book I read was In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. This is like a fantasy Pinocchio retelling, also gay. Really liked this, really liked the characters, really liked the world, filled time great, and also enjoyed that. Next book I read, Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. Love that. It was like queer horror, but with like some commentary on Hollywood, and I thought it was really fun, really campy, really silly, but also like the horror worked really well, and I really liked this. This was really good. Next I read If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura. This is about like a man dying of a brain tumor and like him making amends in his life, and then also trying to make a deal with the devil to stay alive, and weirdly really wholesome read. I really liked this. And the next book I read was The Mad Women's Ball by Victoria Moss. It was fine. It filled time. I finished it. I don't have many super nice things to say about it. I have a lot of negative things to say about it, but we won't get into that here. It was just okay. And then the last book I finished was Icarus by Kay Ankrum. I don't know what I expected with this book because it is YA and I never read YA, so I don't know why I expected to like it, but I didn't. But if your thing is YA novels about sad gay boys who trauma dump to each other and then kiss, then this is probably the perfect book for you, but it was not. I didn't really like it, but I did finish it, so usually when I hate a book, I just won't even finish it, so that should say something. So yeah, at least I got some reading done in this time. I cannot express how much pain I was in and how crazy I felt. Like, I was just convinced I was losing my mind. I was like, I must be going crazy. And I had so many cups pissed in, and not one of them It took so many attempts of pissing in cups for doctors for finally someone to go, yep, UTI, here's the antibiotics that you said you needed! So yeah, I don't know if I'm coming back to YouTube, but I just needed this to be out there so I can feel like I gained something from it. And if all that I gain is views, fine. But like, God, I feel like I've had weeks of my life ripped from me. So, that's where I've been!